Cat. Once upon a time, in a quiet, suburban neighborhood, there lived a curious and mischievous cat named Whiskers. Whiskers was a beautiful, long-haired calico with a coat that was a mesmerizing blend of white, black, and ginger. She had a pair of enchanting emerald eyes and, as her name suggested, long, elegant whiskers that twitched in curiosity at the world around her. Whiskers was no ordinary cat. She had a sense of adventure that knew no bounds. From a young age, she exhibited a fearless and inquisitive spirit. Unlike the cats content with basking in the sun on the porch, Whiskers yearned for something more. Her insatiable curiosity often led her on thrilling escapades through the neighborhood. One sunny morning, Whiskers found herself in the garden of Mrs. Jenkins, a kind-hearted elderly woman known for her love of flowers. The garden was a colorful paradise, a sanctuary where Whiskers loved to chase butterflies and investigate the myriad of scents wafting through the air. She had a particular fondness for Mrs. Jenkins, who would often leave out a saucer of milk for her. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, Whiskers and Mrs. Jenkins formed an unbreakable bond. They would spend hours together in the garden, Whiskers napping under the shade of the cherry blossom tree, and Mrs. Jenkins tending to her beloved flowers. They shared their stories, their secrets, and their silent companionship, creating a friendship that transcended the boundaries of species. But Whiskers' spirit of adventure could not be contained. One day, she discovered a hidden tunnel beneath the garden's old oak tree. Unable to resist the call of the unknown, she ventured inside. It led her into a world of winding underground tunnels and mysterious chambers. She was on an epic journey, exploring the secrets hidden beneath the very ground she walked on. While her underground escapades were thrilling, they also brought about new challenges. Whiskers found herself entangled in daring pursuits, hunting mice in the labyrinthine tunnels, and navigating pitch-black passages. She even stumbled upon a group of friendly but reclusive rats who taught her the art of surviving underground. Whiskers' prolonged absences worried Mrs. Jenkins. She began to search for her adventurous feline friend, asking neighbors and putting up flyers around the neighborhood. Days turned into weeks, and Mrs. Jenkins was inconsolable, fearing she had lost her beloved companion forever. One fateful evening, just as hope was beginning to fade, Whiskers emerged from the depths of the tunnel. Covered in dirt and cobwebs, she made her way back to the garden. Mrs. Jenkins was overjoyed to see her furry friend again, and their reunion was a heartwarming moment that brought tears to her eyes. Whiskers had returned from her underground adventures with a newfound wisdom and resilience. She continued to spend time with Mrs. Jenkins but no longer roamed too far from home. Together, they cherished their moments in the garden, creating lasting memories that filled their lives with love and companionship. As time passed, Whiskers' escapades became legendary in the neighborhood. She was known as the intrepid cat who had explored the underground world and returned to her loving friend. The story of Whiskers and Mrs. Jenkins served as a reminder that even the most adventurous souls can find their way back home, and that true friendship knows no boundaries, whether they be above ground or beneath it. One particularly chilly autumn evening, a new chapter in Whiskers' adventurous life began. A fierce storm was brewing on the horizon, and the winds howled like a restless spirit. Whiskers, who had a penchant for the unusual, decided to venture into the stormy night. Her curiosity, as always, led her to the most unexpected places. As the rain fell in torrents and the thunder rumbled, Whiskers sought refuge in the nearby abandoned warehouse. The derelict building had long been a mystery to the neighborhood, shrouded in eerie stories and tales of ghostly apparitions. But for Whiskers, it was merely a shelter from the tempestuous weather. Inside the warehouse, Whiskers' emerald eyes glowed like twin beacons in the darkness. She explored the vast, empty space, her fur bristling with excitement. It was a world of forgotten relics and hidden treasures. Old crates, rusty tools, and discarded machinery filled the dimly lit expanse. As she ventured deeper into the building, Whiskers discovered a peculiar old diary buried beneath a pile of dusty books. Curiosity piqued, she pawed at the diary and managed to open it. The pages were filled with handwritten entries, detailing the life of a long-forgotten sailor named Captain Bartholomew, who had once been the master of a grand sailing ship called the Starlight. Whiskers was captivated by the tales of Captain Bartholomew's adventures on the high seas, the treasure hunts, and the far-off lands he had visited. The diary contained vivid descriptions of the exotic sights and sounds the captain had encountered during his journeys. Whiskers felt as though she was transported to a different time and place as she read each entry. Intrigued by the diary, Whiskers decided to bring it back with her to Mrs. Jenkins' garden, where the old woman had a collection of dusty books. She thought Mrs. Jenkins might enjoy reading about Captain Bartholomew's adventures. The storm eventually subsided, and Whiskers returned home, her whiskers twitching with excitement. She delivered the diary to Mrs. Jenkins, who was delighted with the unexpected gift. Together, they started to read the enthralling tales of the long-lost captain, and the bond between the two friends deepened even further. Mrs. Jenkins began researching the life of Captain Bartholomew and discovered that his treasure had never been found. The stories Whiskers had stumbled upon led them on a quest to uncover the lost treasure. They pored over maps, old documents, and the captain's diary in pursuit of the hidden riches. Their treasure hunt took them on a remarkable journey, much like the adventures of Captain Bartholomew himself. They traveled to distant islands and braved treacherous caves, all while learning more about the seafaring captain's life. As the weeks turned into months, Mrs. Jenkins and Whiskers uncovered the final clues that led them to the long-lost treasure. With the treasure in hand, Mrs. Jenkins decided to use it to fund a community garden in the heart of their neighborhood. The garden was dedicated to Captain Bartholomew and the adventurous spirit that had brought Whiskers and Mrs. Jenkins together. It became a place of beauty, serenity, and inspiration, filled with exotic plants and flowers from around the world. Whiskers, who had embarked on countless adventures throughout her life, now had a special place in the heart of the community. She was celebrated as the fearless feline who had not only explored the underground world but had also discovered the tales of Captain Bartholomew and the hidden treasure. As the years passed, the garden thrived, and the neighborhood was filled with the laughter of children, the scent of blooming flowers, and the spirit of adventure. Whiskers and Mrs. Jenkins, inseparable friends, spent their days in the garden, sharing stories of their adventures and enjoying the serenity that surrounded them. The story of Whiskers, the adventurous cat, and her unbreakable bond with Mrs. Jenkins served as a testament to the enduring power of curiosity, friendship, and the unexpected adventures that life can bring. Together, they had uncovered treasure far more valuable than gold, a lifelong connection and a garden that would forever bloom with beauty and memories.